been looking to do a full sit-down with a full liquor license. Unfortunately, that has not been an easy road.
I found that it actually was more beneficial to be a Black business owner because they really wanted to strive to make sure that our businesses survived.
We opened this branch because there hadn't been a new bank branch in Roxbury in over 20 years at that time. And it really was almost like a banking desert.
I really just want you to open the door for me and allow me to sit at the table. I don't even need you to represent me. I know that I'm strong and qualified enough to do it myself.
If you don't give me the opportunity, then I lose.
When we are focused on building our communities of color, we actually are focused on building everybody up.
Good evening, I'm Latoya Edwards. Welcome to A Seat at the Table, Black-owned in Boston. Over the next half hour, we're going to take a look at some of the persistent barriers that Black and brown Bostonians are up against when it comes to building businesses in Boston. We'll explore how those experiences affect neighborhoods, and we'll hear from people working to make real change. We've got conversations on everything from liquor licenses to city hall contracts with everyone from restaurateurs, bankers, and even a hair salon owner. And I'll speak with Boston's first ever Chief of Economic Opportunity and Inclusion, Shagun Idowu, truly has a seat at the table. But let's begin with the restaurant industry. For decades in Boston, liquor licenses have been hard to come by for people of color. Look at these numbers. As of February 1st, the city of Boston had more than 1,300 liquor licenses. Of those, more than 800 allow owners to serve all types of alcohol. The state does not keep a record of the race of the owner, but according to the Boston Black Hospitality Coalition, fewer than 10 of the city's fully unrestricted licenses are owned by Black people. We begin with the story of one man who has been trying to buy one of these coveted licenses.
Drinks here? I have some waters for you. Unfortunately, we don't have any beer or wine or anything, but hopefully that will happen soon.
I've been looking for a larger space to do a full sit-down with the full liquor license. Unfortunately, that has not been an easy road.
Donnell Singleton owns Food for the Soul in Dorchester. His family's soul food recipes bring the guests.
So we have curry chicken, rotisserie chicken, jerk chicken.
At the start of the pandemic, Donnell's heart helped thousands in need. He shut down temporarily, and he gave out more than 80,000 free meals with some community support.
Food for the Soul has great food, but if I can't get a drink, where do I go? If the small mom and pops don't have the ability to compete, we will disappear and vanish.
Donnell says buying a liquor license has been a series of obstacles, including prices that are twice the going rate. And then...
So here you have a gentleman who owns an establishment, who he's trying to lease it out. He has a full liquor license, but you want almost double of what it's going for, right? So we go back and forth through the negotiations. Then next thing you know, you're sitting in limbo for 2 or 3 months. Then finally the realtor gets back to you and says, hey man, I'm sorry, but the owner decided to go another route. So then you say, okay, well, hey, somebody better got an opportunity. But then you go right back 6, 7, 8, 9 months later, and guess what? That place is still not leased. So what is next? Maybe some more liquor license will, quote unquote, pop up. Maybe that will happen. And when they pop up, maybe they'll be at an affordable price.
So what does it look like when those hurdles are removed? This is Daryl's. And this is Daryl Settles, an entrepreneur and community activist who bought the place more than 30 years ago, back when it was Bob the Chef's.
Bob the Chef's was the only restaurant in Boston that had a really diverse clientele.
So how did Daryl get a liquor license?
This is one of those things where it is like who you know and whether you have accessibility to funds or not. I knew the mayor, and I said, I need to get a liquor license, or, you know, this restaurant just not going to make it. And then went through the process, and I got a free liquor license.
That's right, a free liquor license. Over the years, he sold the restaurant, bought it back, renovated, renamed. Among the regulars at Daryl's Corner Bar and Kitchen, Nia Grace, a young businesswoman.
I just felt at home, from the art on the walls to the smell in the air to the music that was playing. looked over to my girlfriend and I said, hey, if I ever own a venue, I want it to be just like this.
Nia began with marketing, became a manager. Under her leadership, the restaurant thrived. And when Daryl was thinking about selling, she bought the place in 2018. And while the unrestricted liquor license came with it, Nia still had to go through the approval process. Nia, I don't think people understand that there's so many obstacles sometimes in getting a liquor license. Tell me your story. How challenging was it to get a liquor license?
I thought that I was going to be counted out because I understood that licensing looks at you and they look at your full history to understand if you're going to be someone who is responsible to carry this license. For us, it's your background check and your associates, anybody that you've associated with. And I've had some challenges, or at least my relatives, my parents, my siblings have had challenges growing up that kind of counted me out, at least on paper.
While it worked out for Nia Grace, she is deeply concerned about the lack of licenses in Boston's communities of color. She launched Boston's Black Hospitality Coalition during the COVID crisis to advocate for her colleagues, pushing for more aid during the Omicron crisis. But the barriers persist.
From Blue Hill Avenue, from Dorchester, all the way up to Milton, we only have one venue that has a full alcohol license. That, to me, signifies a lost opportunity to build that wealth in our communities. Mattapan is one of the largest neighborhoods in the city of Boston. It is predominantly a black neighborhood, and it has 0 sit-down restaurants with full service. When you realize Roxbury, the true geographic center of the city of Boston, has only about 4 licenses. When you look at those factors, and you see that in those neighborhoods, it's predominantly African American, you have to wonder why we are not able to have additional assets that will help us build wealth and build up our communities.
Which brings us back to Donnell.
I am a African American male, born and raised in Roxbury. I went to high school here, right? I went to the military. I went to college. I got a degree. I come back home so I can show other African American boys and other African American girls in my community that, hey, you can do the right thing. You can open a business. You can be successful, right? But am I telling them a lie? I'm not really sure.
We checked in with the state's Alcohol and Beverage Control Commission. They tell us they do not regulate the cost of a license. That is determined by the market. So how is the city working on this imbalance? I asked Shagun Idowu, Boston's Chief of Economic Opportunity and Inclusion.
Congresswoman Presley, when she was a counselor, did a great job of working with state colleagues to get neighborhood-specific licenses. But these licenses got used up so quickly, and it was tough for folks in Mattapan to fulfill their application to actually get a license there. But what that tells me is, first of all, we have to push at the state level to increase the number of licenses here in the city. We need to be intentional about making sure that the infrastructure is there to support these liquor licenses. So even if we go to the State House and say, I want 5 liquor licenses for Mattapan, we need to make sure as a city that there are spaces available for restaurateurs who are black or brown or otherwise to have those spaces and be ready to apply for those liquor licenses and maintain them.
So talk about the barriers and dig a little deeper about the barriers that people face. I mean, you get an idea, you save your money to create a business, to create a restaurant, you want it to thrive, and then you come up against a brick wall sometimes. Explain those barriers and the cost.
Yeah, well, a piece of it is knowledge, information, but when one opens up, you know, not everyone gets the information at the same time that something is available, so they're not the first in line to potentially receive it. And another piece is what you said, it's the cost. I mean, a lot of these licenses are exorbitantly expensive to have access to. And so again, our role as a city and working with partners, whether it be at the state level or those in the private sector, to help defray the cost of these licenses for our businesses. And then, you know, thirdly, it's about on the policy side, you know, working with our state colleagues to provide licenses that may be at a reduced expense for particular neighborhoods to ensure that, you know, in particular, entrepreneurs of color have access to these licenses and they're not having to give their arm and leg for this license, and then they don't have that money to invest in their business to make sure that it's thriving beyond year one, which is when most of our businesses are failing.
So when people watch this program right now, they say, well, how expensive is expensive?
Some of these licenses can go up to in the hundreds of thousands.
So will they be set-asides, and how much is low cost?
So it would be tough to answer and say this is what it will be, because it could change based on some of the strategic conversations we're having. Mm-hmm. And if we're going to turn our neighborhoods into destinations, a restaurant to be able to grab a drink after work or to wind down after a long week is critical. It's vital. When you go to any other city that has a vibrant and thriving neighborhood, it's restaurants or bars with full liquor licenses. And if our neighborhoods don't have access to that, they cannot be destinations, and they can't even thrive or be vibrant even for the residents there. So absolutely, it's a huge priority.
And coming up next, you don't want to go away. We've got more on Shogun's top priorities. And here's a hint. He's thinking very big about the future of Boston.
The vision that we have right now is creating a Boston that is a global model of economic equity that's helping to build generational wealth and enhances the quality of life for all of Boston's residents.
Then later, embracing curls and opportunity, the business of authenticity thriving in a South End salon, plus banking on Boston's up-and-coming entrepreneurs.